Hello and welcome to Criminal History. This video will explore some of the most disturbing films you can watch. A Serbian film. Many people will not be surprised to see a Serbian film on this list. For most people that have watched it, it will be the first film that comes to mind, especially if they have seen the complete uncensored horror of the uncut version. The film is the epitome of a disturbing movie, encapsulating the full scope of horror. Not only does it contain gore that pushes the line of what is legally acceptable to the very edge, but it is also a psychological journey into darkness and depravity. The film tells the story of an ex-film star, and it plunges you into uncomfortability from the opening scene when his young son discovers and watches one of his old movies. For the rest of the film, you are left squirming in disgust as the depravity gently ramps up to a crescendo. The retired actor star Milos agrees to make one last lucrative film when he runs into financial difficulty. It is proposed to him that the film pays so well because it is an artistic, high-end work of art and not a smutty, low-end movie. It later becomes apparent that Milos has been specifically selected because of his rough style when in action. As the film progresses, the film and the people in charge of production become darker and more dangerous. Milos is driven to the set, blindfolded and escorted by armed guards. The scenes become violent and it is unclear whether it is an act by paid actresses or if they are actually being harmed. However, it soon becomes undeniable when he himself is harmed and physically forced to harm others. In reality, the producer, Vukmir, has no plans of making an adult movie, but instead wants to create the greatest snuff movie ever. Like many depraved elites in the world today, he has many connections in various influential sectors, including psychology, child psychology, state television and state security. Disturbingly, the producer uses his background working with children to include them in the film. Milos naively attempts to resign from acting in the film. However, he doesn't realise he is already in too deep, and that is not an option. When he submits his resignation at a meeting, his drink is spiked with an unknown concoction of chemicals, which cause him to become hyper-aggressive, hyper-aroused and uncontrollably unhinged. When the chemical concoction causes him to blank out, he commits violent acts of depravity and murder on camera under the manipulation and direction of Vukmir. He is also taken against his will himself by one of the guards whilst knocked out and sedated. The movie also unravels the bizarre jealousy of Milos' brother Marko. Marko, who is also a police detective, is deeply jealous of his brother's career, sexual ability and happy family. In the climax of the film, it is shown that Marko completely betrays Milos and his family in the most horrifying and disturbing way possible. Some of the scenes in the film are too grotesque to mention on YouTube. It is also because of these, especially the scenes involving children and in one case a baby, that led to it being banned in several countries including the Philippines, Spain, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia and Norway. It also required mandatory cuts in the UK to be legally allowed. If you are tempted to watch the film, be pre-warned that some of the scenes are so horrifically disturbing beyond your comprehension that they may traumatise you and negatively change your perception of reality. Hostel. When Hostel first emerged in 2005, it did not receive as much praise as it perhaps deserves on later viewing. The level of grotesque gore was shocking and hard to watch, but it lacked the believability to make it scary. The over-the-top violence for the simple pursuit of pleasure was hard to even imagine, giving the film a cartoonish, comical feel. However, the wall of ignorance about how brutally sick the world really is has been lifted in recent years. This makes the premise of the movie shockingly believable, and therefore it becomes terrifying. The film follows two American men and their Icelandic friend travelling across Europe, partying as they go. The movie gets its title from the various cheap hostels they stay in on their travels. As to be expected, they start their journey in Amsterdam, a city of great culture, but even better as a den of debauchery. There they meet a young man that convinces them to go to Slovakia. With the promise of easy women, they make their way there across Europe. When they get there, they find that their tip-off is absolutely correct. Beautiful European women seemingly throw themselves at them, fawning over their accents. However, what seems like is too good to be true usually is, and the travellers find this out in brutal fashion. The stunning women that are hanging on their every word are nothing but a honeypot. After a night of seduction, main character Paxton and his friend Josh awake to find their friend Ollie missing. But he is not missing at all, he has been kidnapped. These hot European women are sent to seduce and intoxicate vulnerable travellers to kidnap them. But kidnap them for what? They are kidnapped on behalf of wealthy elites who seemingly have everything. And so bored of their abundance, they crave the sickest form of forbidden fruit, murder. And not just any murder, a prolonged, no limits murder in which they can inflict any amount of pain they desire. First, we see Josh waking up chained to a chair in a cellar, whilst his captor lines up the various tools he will use to inflict pain on him, including pliers, drills and saws. Some of the most gruesome scenes in film history follow, which will have you wincing with disgust. However, other than the gore, Hostel failed to truly disturb viewers as it lacked believability. In 2005, when it was released, the concept of people paying for the pleasure of murdering someone was nothing but a fantasy. In that time, even films were thought to be an urban legend. However, the dark web has put any speculation to bed. Peter Scully proved both to be true when he was arrested. It was found he was running a website in which he produced and sold films in exchange for thousands of pounds worth of cryptocurrency.
Peter Scully is finally in jail, likely never to walk free again. Charged with kidnapping, rape, torture, murder, and selling the gruesome videos he's made which detail the terror and pain of his victims.
This arrest also helped strengthen the theory of another grim urban legend, the Red Rooms. Red Rooms on the dark web are said to host live executions in which viewers can request actions to be taken against a victim in exchange for cryptocurrency. However, the existence of these, as of now, remains unproven. Also, in 2020, police found a soundproofed shipping container equipped with similar instruments to that of Hostel, kitted out to inflict maximum pain on a victim. The container included a dentist-like chair, pliers, handcuffs and scalpels. This was an operation by a criminal syndicate in the Netherlands and was seized by Dutch police. All of this makes a later viewing of Hostel a terrifying experience. To think that this scenario could actually happen, and possibly is already happening in countries all over the world, is a haunting thought. Martyrs. Martyrs runs along a similar vein as Hostel in that elites kidnap victims so that they can imprison hostages and inflict as much pain as possible on them. However, the elites and martyrs do this for a very different reason, which is beautifully laid out in the film. Martyrs tells the story of two young girls who meet in an orphanage. One of the girls, Lucy, has severe issues after the abuse she received whilst kidnapped and tortured by the previously mentioned elites. To cope with the mental anguish and PTSD, she self-isolates herself while her friend Anna comforts her. They form a sisterly bond as they grow up together in the orphanage. When Lucy self-isolates herself, she hallucinates that a female demon that follows her is the one harming her. The reason for this is that when she escaped from her imprisonment, she passed a chained up girl suffering the same fate as her. She desperately wanted to help her, but was afraid she might be recaptured. So she left her to face abuse, torture and extreme agony. In her guilt, she starts to imagine the girl is haunting her, and as she gets older, the demon she imagines becomes scarier and more gruesome, with an acceleration of injuries on her body. Her self-injuries appear when her imagined demon appears, believing it is this demon that is doing it, even though her friend can see it is her. I warn, some of the self-inflicted injuries are extremely graphic, including severely deep cuts, and they may trigger anyone suffering from this kind of thing. It may even be traumatizing to those that do not. She begins to believe the only way she can stop being haunted by these visions is to get revenge on her captors, which she does by executing an entire family. However, this seemingly does not help, as the creature is seen writhing in terrifying agony shortly after, chasing her. With no way out of this misery in sight, she finishes herself in front of her best friend that has come to save her. Her friend Anna stays at the house to try and clean up the crime scene, and ends up finding a concealed dungeon in the basement. This basement is no Joseph Fritzl style homemade job, but a professionally built prison. There she finds a female victim not dissimilar to the creature in her friend's visions, tied up and half naked with visible scars all over her body, indicating the torment she has suffered. She tries to rescue the victim, but the secretive organisation that the dead family worked for appear with armed guards, and from there Anna goes on to experience excruciating suffering as she becomes the new victim of this organisation. The mysterious group believe that only extreme pain can help a person achieve true enlightenment and discover knowledge that bridges the state of life and death. Women are chosen because they are said to be more receptive of this. This is how the film gets its name. The women are martyred so that humanity can achieve a greater understanding of the afterlife and the purpose of life itself. As you would expect, Anna is subject to gruesome torment in this quest, and when she is at the brink of death, she finally achieves this enlightenment. The shock ending of this film, surrounding the outcome of this enlightenment, catches you completely unaware, making you question why what happens happened, allowing you to form your own speculations. We Are the Flesh. We Are the Flesh is a truly barbaric film hailing from Mexico. Set in a mysterious post-apocalyptic world, it was destined to be bleak viewing. An isolated, unhinged, depraved man named Mariano has found a place of shelter and food amidst the chaos of the apocalypse. But when teenage brother and sister Lucio and Fauna stumble across him, things become even grimmer. He offers them the food and shelter they need to survive at a dire cost. A cost many would rather die than pay. Mariano begins displaying ever-increasing bizarre antics. Also, evil literally radiates from his eyes. He makes them build a cocoon-like structure in the building from scraps like cardboard and duct tape. He also begins to psychologically groom them. He breaks down their morals mentally. At one point, he poisons Fauna, and in order for Mariano to give her the antidote, he forces the vegetarian Lucio to eat meat first. He manipulates the brother and sister to have an love affair for his own pleasure. The resulting sex scenes are highly explicit. Even after Mariano dies, the siblings continue their bizarre affair, and their depravity even amps up further. Fauna even tries to ride the dead Mariano. Somehow, Mariano is reborn in the cocoon they have made. Seemingly, this has a deeper meaning, but like many art house films, this is far from obvious. In horrifying fashion, they also randomly kidnap and cannibalize a victim. Another woman also mysteriously arrives out of nowhere, and Fauna immediately starts to assault her. Mariano then quickly follows suit. Along with being one of the most twisted, weird and bizarre films ever, it is also one of the most explicit. It even culminates in a flesh-eating orgy. The film seems to follow no discernible storyline or point other than demonstrating incredibly disturbing yet visually impressive scenes. It is worth a watch as an artistic experience, but not as a film. Thanks for watching this introductory video on the most disturbing films. If the video gets enough traction, I would love to do a part 2. So let me know in the comments below if there's any films you want me to include.